Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, He Lied to Me, so I left his number everywhere. I've been dating this guy I really liked for 3 months. I was happy and I thought things were going great. Every time I would bring up my concerns, he assured me it was all in my head and I needed to relax. He had at least 2 chances to leave me alone. Even though I liked him, I just couldn't shake the feeling. The day before yesterday, he showed me something funny on Facebook that he had posted. But when I went back the next morning so I could send it to one of my friends, it wasn't there. So I started searching him under a different name, and I found his real Facebook and all the pictures and videos of his actual long-term girlfriend in another state. He looked very much in love, and I was very disappointed because I never knew and wouldn't have stayed around if I would have known. And I gave him chances to leave me alone. So yesterday I spent all day signing him up for everything I could find that asked for a number. Cat facts, weather updates in different states, car insurance quotes, life insurance, Bible verses, coupons, everything I could find. His phone will be so full of spam. Then I posted screenshots of our conversations all over their pictures together from as recent as the night before. And I took out his name so the number was visible at the top. He was so mad at me. I've never done anything like this before, but for years men have been lying to me, breaking my heart, making me feel stupid, and it hurts and I just snapped. But I do not feel bad and will not apologize. The next story is titled, Compact Parking Spots Are for Compact Cars. You park there, you get noticed. I work in a large office building with ample parking. There are few, maybe half a dozen, compact spots available in the entire lot. I have come into work in the morning, and after lunch I've seen people park a 15-passenger van in a compact space. Like, who does that? Side note for those of you who don't know, compact spaces are just that. They are compact. They are smaller than most other parking spots, and it leaves very little room on either side of your big-ass ride for anyone to maneuver their doors properly, let alone get out without slamming their doors into the neighboring cars. My car has been damaged more than I care to share, and I've had to climb into my passenger side door because of jerks that decide they're more important than the person they parked next to. After discussing this issue with the building owners, and they don't care, I decided to go petty revenge on them. I came into work today to find yet again 3 vehicles that were absolutely not compact vehicles. It irritated me, but it wasn't until I came back from lunch and 3 new huge vehicles were parked there that I finally had enough. I pulled a pack of Post-it notes out of my briefcase and wrote lovely little notes to each vehicle, explaining to them how much of an asshole they are. I then left one on each driver's side window. Once I got to the building, I turned around to make sure I could see them waving in the breeze. I hope that every person that went past saw what it said. They were not parked there when I left. Today was a good day. The next story is titled, So Much Fun Pulling This One Off. This is a 2-part story. It happened back in the 70s, but I still laugh when I think about it. So I used to sell car insurance, and the owner had 2 separate offices. I was friends with the girl in the other office. I'll call her Beth. One night we got together after work for dinner. She was showing me a lot of pictures of her BF. I saw a really nice-looking guy in one of the pictures and told Beth to find out who he was and if he was single. Later, she told me it was her BF's cousin, and he was definitely interested in meeting me. The next night, he called me, and we had a great conversation. He asked me out to dinner, and of course I said yes. So you can imagine how shocked and disappointed I was when Beth's BF showed up instead of his cousin. He admitted he was the one who called me. He said he was sorry, but he enjoyed talking to me so much, and blah, blah, blah. I was pissed, but I will say no one screws with my friends, So my revenge was already churning away on the inside, but I was all sugar and spice on the outside. So he let me pick the restaurant, and I picked the most expensive one in the area and the most expensive meal, as well as a boatload of appetizers. So we had our dinner, and I was very honest on the way home. I told him I really didn't feel right about going behind Beth's back because she was a good friend. When we got to the house, I flung the door open and ran across the front lawn to my house. The next day, even though I didn't want to hurt Beth, I told her exactly what happened. She was pissed, and the revenge plan went into effect. Part 2. We decided I would call him and grovel and say I made a mistake and really did want to see him again. We made a date for after work by Beth's office. He was very excited. So the night of our meeting up again was set up. You probably guessed it by now. Beth showed up instead of me. He called me the next day and was pissed. How could I trick him like that? That was so wrong. I said, "You got a taste of your own medicine," and just laughed. Of course he hung up. That was the best revenge ever. Beth and I laughed about it for a long time. The next story is titled, "The Revenge May Be Small, but It Has a Good Personality." So I wanted to buy a new game for my Switch. Specifically, I wanted Shining Pearl. I already had Brilliant Diamond and wanted some of the game exclusions that could only be found on Shining Pearl. Well, money is tight right now, and I don't have much to spare. So I went to Facebook Marketplace. I found a guy selling a used pearl his son no longer wanted. Perfect, I thought. I end up messaging him and buying it. He said that he will ship it to me at EOD. I never get shipping confirmation, and then the next day I go to message him and I'm blocked. Well, crap. I have been scammed. I had bought about 20 things off Facebook Marketplace, so the level in which I trusted the sellers had gone up because I never encountered a problem. So me and my friend found him on Facebook and waited until he decided to sell something again. This time, he was selling a different game that was for PS5. My friend contacted him, said he was at work, and could he text him? Bingo, we got his number. Later that day, after I had time to prepare, I sent him a text from my phone. "Hey, just to let you know, you scammed me out of $20 for Shining Pearl, and I learned my lesson. But now, I'm going to annoy the crap out of you." I enlisted his number on every single thing I could find. I signed him up with all kinds of political callers, prank numbers, everything. The more it called or texted, the better it was. I even found a website that will send whoever you choose a random fact about Trump every hour. I went on Craigslist and made a post saying free hen and free cow to a good home. Selling the land, don't have time for an auction. Where I am, from what I know, he got about 100 calls alone asking about the chickens and the cows. I went on Zillow and said I wanted to sell my house and gave them his number, telling them I wanted to speak to an agent. I know for a fact he won't be able to get rid of that. I wish I knew how many calls and texts he got and at what point he finally turned his phone off. My hope is that he had to get a new number, and if he did, I hope it cost him some money, like $20. Even if he gets it changed with no fee, the annoyance of having to give everyone your new number is good enough. As the title says, it's not the biggest revenge, and I didn't get my money back, but I did hopefully cause him some suffering, and I learned a lesson. The next story is titled, "You're Blocking the Drive-Thru." I drive a concrete mixer and was just getting done pouring a drive-thru for a new Chick-fil-A going up in the area. The drive-thru is fresh and wet cement. Once again, she refused to comply and started beeping her horn again. I've had it. I'm washing down the truck when I hear loud honking, not thinking anything of it. As I'm in a shopping center, I keep washing the inside of the truck down. I then hear more honking and look over to the front to see a Karen EM with her head out her window, full Karen haircut, then screaming, "Move out of the way! You're blocking the ducking drive-through." I see she has 2 empty car seats in the back and a sticker in her window saying "Baby's on board." I'm glad her kids weren't in the car when this happened. I'm not a fan of cussing. I came down off the ladder to go and explain that it isn't open yet. As I walk toward the car, she starts moving her car closer to me. She is now about 2 feet from the front of my truck. My truck is back to the building. I keep thinking, how exactly does she expect me to get out? As I get to her window, I let her know nicely that the Chick-fil-A location is not open yet and inform her that she will need to move back so I can move my truck from the fenced-off area. EM is having nothing of it. EM is adamant that I move my truck out of the way so she can get into the drive-thru. Well, I tried. I asked her to move her car back so I can move my truck out of the fenced area. Once again, she refused to comply and started beeping her horn again. I've had it. My truck horn, for those who don't know what one sounds like, is very, very loud. If you're too close, they can scare you and even give you a ringing in your ears. As she was refusing to move and constantly honking her horn, I decided to show her mine. Honk, 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 and I started to move forward. EM moved her car back quickly. She must have not have checked her mirrors or blind spot because she backed up into a stop sign that was about 75 feet away. Of course, EM got out and came over to start blaming me for her own actions. I forced her to back up into the sign. I am 100% at fault for her car damage, and I rushed her car so she had to avoid me by backing up as fast as she could. I love this one. EM called the police soon after. The site foreman saw the entire event, but he doesn't speak much English and likely already had to deal with various people trying to get into his site. So he just sat back and watched until the police arrived. We each told our stories, and of course, EM made hers sound like it was a life or death situation, where she was a kind woman just trying to make it to the new Chick-fil-A for lunch, and I was blocking it just to be cruel to her for no reason of her own. That, without warning, I charged her vehicle and forced her to rush and back into the stop sign. The officer came over and asked if it was true. I replied, "No, sir." "I have a dash cam with audio. You can see if you could play the file on a computer." Lucky for me, our foreman offered his laptop. EM's story fell apart quick. The officer's face turned to a frown that I swear could have made the Pope feel guilty. He walked over to her, went straight to his handcuffs, and began to read her rights to her. EM was charged with obstruction of justice, reckless driving, and misuse of 911. As she was being placed into the back of the police charger, I saw a man coming over with a 2-child stroller that had 2 babies riding in it. The officer explained the situation to him, and he honestly didn't look surprised. He seemed to just nod and walked quietly over to the car, took pictures, and unloaded his kids with the stroller and left. I feel bad that he had to go through that, but I'm under the impression that it wasn't the first time she has done something like this. I didn't press charges, but I reported everything to my company for their discretion too. I feel like I've ran into more and more of these forms of people since COVID began. The next story is titled, "Substitute Teacher Scared into Retirement." I was on the fringe of this story, but it was back in the long ago age known as 1990. I was a 7th grader at the time, and over my elementary school career, there had been an older substitute teacher named Mrs. Young. Really, this woman was a nasty piece of work. Constantly, shushing people, and telling the students that they would get in trouble basically for existing around her. One Friday I leave early, and it turns out I had pneumonia. I was going to be off the next week. It turned out that the pneumonia had actually been a good thing in my case. Our last class of the day alternated between French and history, which were both taught by the same teacher. That week, she went off with migraines. And who did the class get? Mrs. Young, and her condescending and nasty attitude. Hearing about it later, she had tormented the class all week. They got their revenge on Friday. She came into the room and they struck. They slammed the door behind her. They pushed the furniture around. They opened and closed the blinds. They shouted, "The devil is come," and "Satan rules." This little old lady ran out of the classroom, down the hall, down the stairs, and to the first floor and out of the school. This little old lady ran out of the classroom, down the hall, down the stairs, to the first floor, and out of the school. Never came back. I come back on Monday, and the history French teacher, homeroom teacher, and principal are railing on my class for scaring that old lady into retirement. They mention that they would have been responsible if they'd given her a heart attack. I was shocked at hearing that they'd done this. End of the day. The whole class, save for me, got a week's detention. I hated that old lady, but I never would have done what they did. Still, they gave me an interesting story. The last story is titled, "Negative Coworker Gets the Fax Calls." I work with a lady, Nancy, and boy does she fit the negative Nancy saying. She knows everything until you have a question, then she doesn't know anything about that. She spends most of her hours looking for everyone's mistakes and then attacks the people who made them. It's all around a very toxic environment she has created. The boss and his wife are seriously the best people I've ever worked for, which is why I haven't left. Well, Friday and this morning, I kept getting a call, and as soon as I would answer, it would beep a couple of times, maybe like it was trying to send a fax. Maybe not, though, as I have answered the phone to an awful loud screeching noise that was definitely a fax. Well, anyway, I figured out how to add it to the block list, thinking it wouldn't be able to reach us then, as I'm the first point of contact for the company. I was wrong in the best way. It automatically skips my phone and goes straight to Nancy's. I kept waiting for her to come ask why I'm transferring them to her. When I'm not after the big sigh, she lets out. It's little things, you know. My Monday has been made. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.